Good evening, race fans, and welcome here to Charlotte for tonight's Charlotte 150. My name is Robert Hill Jr. Joining me, as always, is Chris Wright. Chris, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. Excited to see a race. First race of the new round. We got some smaller field here going for the championship, and it should be a fun and exciting night to see if one of these guys that's in the playoffs is going to win and lock their way into the next round, or is somebody going to do some trophy hunting up here and take it from these playoff guys.
Yeah, that's definitely a big question here tonight. Just a quick look at tonight's race format. 100 laps, halfway at lap 50, and 4 sets of tires. Chris, let's take a look at the starting grid. It's going to be Tate Lytle and Chad Frankenfield on the front row, with Matthew Weeks and Tyler Fode in row 2. Ethan Stanley and Scott Crump make up row number 3. Those indicated in blue, such as Weeks, Fode, Stanley, and Crump, are your playoff drivers. Everyone else, of course, not in the playoffs. Jesse Bersemus, Gavin Hibbs make up row number 4, Tyler Popp and Ethan Burrell in row number 5, with Jake Connor and Ty McIntosh in row 6. Row 7, Hunter Smith and Nick Massey. Chris, take us through the rest of the field.
Yeah, right here, 15th on back, we got Dustin Dewar there after that big win last week at Talladega, starting in the mid-pack tonight, hoping that he can go back-to-back. I did have a chance to talk to him before the race, and he is very excited about the opportunity to go back-to-back. So we'll see if he can get it. I don't think he's going to be able to do it on straight-out speed. We'll have to see what kind of strategy opens up later in the race for them. Jaden Racimus is going to roll off right beside him. We got Brandon Ultra, Seth Rawls, Gerald Campbell, Brent Jones running out the top 20. We got Michael Hosick, Kyle Hanshaw, Mark Rebilas, Michael Goodman, Connor Thompson running out our qualifiers. And we have David Tooker and Jeff Green. We're not sure if Jeff Green's going to make the start tonight, as he is working through some issues with his sim.
As you see the field rolling off the starting grid. Nice little shot there. Shout out to Track Cams for Gourmet for providing our camera angles used here tonight. There's David Tooker going to bring up the rear of the field. Jeff Green looks like he will not take the initial start anyways, Chris Wright, but we'll keep our eyes peeled and see if he does join the field as the day goes on. Taking a look from the stands here on the back straight. Chris, why don't we go ahead and make some race picks? We'll start with you, my friend.
Yeah, I think tonight I'm going to pick somebody I haven't picked all year. I think it's about time this guy's due. It's a guy that's a perennial winner. Hasn't been the greatest season for these boys, but they've hung around and been consistent enough to get there. I'm going to take Scott Crump here tonight to get this checkered flag.
Scott Crump, your pick to get the win tonight. I'm going to go a couple rows behind him. Another non-playoff driver currently, and he's going to start this race back on the inside of row number 6. I'm going to go with the 9 of Jake Connor to get it done here tonight at Charlotte. Pace car, about to make its way down pit lane as we'll get set to go green. Tate Lytle, Chad Frankenfield will lead us there in tonight's Charlotte 150. No ums, no R's, just green flags here tonight as Chad Frankenfield gets a great jump up on the high side. He's going to work his way to the race lead already ahead of Tate Lytle, but Lytle going to work his way back on the inside. Matthew Weeks just behind, side by side with Fode. Scott Crump already losing a little bit of ground up top, but it's still extremely early, of course. Chris, anything can happen here. You can always work your way back up as we continue to be side by side for the lead. Lytle on the bottom, Frankenfield up top.
Yeah, and Chad's not going to give this lead up without a fight, and you see it here. He's going to have to fall in line behind Tate. Fode's going to get in line, and all of a sudden, we are single file through the first, 5, 6 cars.
Yeah, pretty much single file back to Jesse Bersemus and Gavin Hibbs that are currently side by side for position 7 and 8 on the track. It's Hibbs up top, Bersemus on the inside. Just behind is where you find Tyler Popp and Ethan Burrell. They're duking it out. Jake Connor there as well. Crump kind of backing up the inside lane just a little bit. Bersemus up to the rear end of that machine. Popp all over the rear end of the 70. These drivers all trying to find where they belong on the racetrack as we work our way down the front straight. That's a cool camera shot. It looks like we're going to work our way on some sort of wire towards the back. That is a sick shot as Tate Lytle continues to lead.
Yeah, got us a little bit of the drone cam going on or something there. One thing that did come up here when I was talking to drivers here before we got going tonight, tire wear is times 15 tonight. It is going to be really bad. it's going to be a lot of tire fall off. These guys are really complaining about pushing, especially off of 4, so I think we're going to see a lot of guys run into that wall there on the exit of 4.
We'll definitely keep our eyes peeled for that, Chris. Of course, as the race goes on, you're going to start seeing more and more tire wear, like you mentioned, coming into play. That's something that typically is prevalent here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is a racetrack that honestly I don't like. I am not good here. Well, I'm not good many places, but especially at this track, I always hit the wall coming off of turn number 4, and it just does not work out well for me, as Lytle continuing to lead the way ahead of Frankenfield, Weeks, Fody, and Stanley. So the top 5 really has not changed positions whatsoever. Everyone pretty much running where they started at this point. Gavin Hibbs up 2 spots, and that's one of our biggest movers so far. Among the biggest movers, though, is David Tooker. He's up 7 positions, started at the rear of the field, already up in position number 19. He spent the past weekend, Chris, racing at the Portland International Raceway with the SCCA Hoosier Super Tour in his Mazda series. So he did a decent job up there. Unfortunately, didn't go his way. Had some troubles. Finished, I believe he said, in the 6th position. So strong outing for him, but had to make the trek back down to California ahead of tonight's race. And here is David Tooker looking to move up another position as he looked low. Now going to look high on the 00 of Gerald Campbell. That's a battle of a couple of playoff drivers towards the rear of the field. Of course, Seth Rawls, one of those as well, currently scored just behind them in position number 20.
Yeah, no surprise to see David Tooker moving through the field after not being able to get a lap down. You know, he's one of these championship guys. He's a threat to win each and every week, so no surprise. Maybe a little bit surprised by how fast he's doing it. Typically, when Weeks is back there or some of them other guys are back there, they're really patient about letting the first 10 or 15 laps go and then just flying by guys. But Tooker is usually a guy that's in the top 2 or 3, so I have no doubt that he is not wearing the tires out, at the same time being able to just, mow his way through this field.
No, you're exactly right on that. As we quickly ride on board here with Tyler Fody, you can see Matthew Weeks just up the road ahead of him there. He's trailing Chad Frankenfield and Tate Lytle that have held those top few spots since the drop of the flag. Here's a battle. Scott Crump side by side with Tyler Popp. It's Tyler Popp up top, Scott Crump down on the bottom. Jesse Racines just behind them as they now single file out. Looks like the whole top 10, maybe even top 20, actually, single filed all the way back to Seth Rawls, Kyle Hanshaw, Brent Jones, single file as well. So the field just trying to play it steady Eddie here, keep themselves safe, keep themselves in position to be there at the end. This is going to be a quick one, Chris, or has potential to be a quick one anyways, as we're already approaching 10% of the way through tonight's 100 lap race. Of course, we're going to have some points given to the halfway leader at the end of lap number 50, coming to 51. And speaking of leader, Chad Frankenfield is catching Tate Lytle here. We're going to have a battle for this lead here momentarily. And Chris, you know as well as I do, this is going to be a hard-fought battle for that top spot. Tate Lytle not going to move out of the way. Chad Frankenfield not going to be afraid to move Lytle out of the way to get that top spot.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, what do we talk about each and every week? It's tire saving, and it's, I have zero doubt. Now, I could be wrong, and I could get proven wrong right here, that Tate is running just as hard as he needs to without abusing the tires. And we know Chad typically is just chewing through those tires, the same as an Ethan Stanley.
Chad's usually pretty hard on the tires, much like I am, much like Ethan Stanley, like you said. Obviously, putting myself in the same sentence as those guys is a little bit questionable, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's one thing to be able to run fast. That's another thing to be able to run fast and not abuse your stuff. And Chad's a guy that we see abusing his stuff quite often, where he'll be the first one to pit. And that's just his, the reason he pits early is because he knows that. He knows that about himself going in. He knows that's the way he races and that's the way he runs. So he sets his strategy to make that work, or try to make that work. It usually takes a timely yellow. And then the same with Ethan Stanley. He typically abuses his stuff. And so tonight, it's going to be about, I talked about it already at the top of the broadcast there. A lot of these guys were complaining about how hard it is to not burn the tires up tonight and how bad the tire wear is tonight. So one thing I'm seeing here, that in the time that I've been talking, that gap between first and second is widened out, And if you look behind Chad, they're starting to line up behind him.
Yeah, it's definitely getting a lot closer here. We'll jump up to the blimp cam, and you have 4 cars there. Frankenfield, Weeks. That is Fody and Stanley there as well. Gavin Hibbs not even too far behind. Hibbs starting to close that gap as well. So he's going to be up in that picture momentarily. So things getting rather close there. Actually, we're going to battle here for second just about. Weeks took a look to the inside of Frankenfield. Thought better of it. I thought we were going to be side by side. Instead, we're going to stay single file. But it's Frankenfield, Weeks, Fody, Stanley, and Hibbs. That line from second through to position number 6. Lytle out front by about 0.4 of a second here. So he's doing what he needs to do, Chris, like you said, just to keep himself a little bit of a gap. Not necessarily pull away from those guys, but keep himself a bit of a buffer that he has to play with. So if he needs to step on it, he can. If he needs to lay back a little bit, he's got that safety net as well.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I think about with Tate Lytle that's so good, that Tate does so well, is being able to save his tires and is being able to get out front and it is not easy to sit out in the lead and manage your tires and manage your pace. That is, it's really difficult to be able to have the discipline to do that. And Tate is really, really good at it. And it's not just Tate. You see some of these other guys do it too. Tyler Fode's a guy that does it pretty well for the most part, and some of these other guys that do it well as well. I think about a Matthew Weeks and a David Tooker. They're really good at getting out front and managing the pace and not just blowing the tires off of it just because they can and because they can be the fastest guy.
Well, speaking of Weeks here, Chris, side by side for second.
Yeah, taking a look. It's going to be hard to make that pass on the bottom, but Chad has probably used his tires up. And I think if Weeks wanted to, this is a pass he probably could have forced 3-4 laps ago. So we'll see exactly how Chad really tight. Really going to go in there tight on him.
That was definitely a tight entry there into turn number 1. Frankenfield with a bit of an advantage here down the back straightaway. Weeks going to tuck in behind him once again. Fody closing that gap as well. So Weeks has to be careful here, Chris, that he doesn't push too hard, wear out those tires before completing the pass on Frankenfield because, well, you can see it right here. We got a line all the way back to Jay Connor in position number 10 forming behind Frankenfield. So aggression probably going to pick up to try to get by Frankenfield. At this point, everyone not really patient, don't really want to wait out too long, as you know here on the racetrack, but also, we're going to see battles throughout this pack as well, as we're going to go side by side. Fody and Weeks. Weeks up top, Fody on the bottom. That's Ethan Stanley just behind Tyler Fody. And then you see Gavin Hibbs coming into the picture as well. Tyler Pop, Scott Crump, Jesse Racimas, and Jay Connor all at the tail end of this pack as well. Ethan Burrell also joining the full-time McIntosh, not too far behind. So basically everyone except for Tate Lytle is in a very tight line right now, as Weeks going to take another look to the inside of Frankenfield as he heads into turn number 3. It's Frankenfield up top, Weeks on the bottom. Stanley and Fody starting to brew a little bit of a battle of their own just behind.
Yeah, and one thing, Chad's got to be real careful pinching. Like, if you're going to run somebody that tight and you get wrecked, it's, whether the other guy picks up the tally or not, what the tally says is not necessarily why things happen. When you run somebody that tight and they miss the line a little bit, yeah, they'll probably get to pick up that tally, but you don't have to run them that tight either, as and Chad's fighting for every spot here, but we're 20 laps in and he's already burned his stuff up. I think he's fighting a losing battle here.
A little bit of contact right there between Weeks and Stanley as they're side by side for 4th and 5th on the track. Frankenfield and Fody side by side as well. Frankenfield going to dip down a little bit. Here comes Gavin Hibbs up to the high side of that Weeks and Stanley battle as well. We got battles all throughout this top 5. We're going to have to jump up to the blimp here and capture as much as we possibly can, because this is getting wide. This is getting heavy as we're 2 by 2 by 2 behind Tate Lytle right now. It's Fody and Frankenfield side by side, right Weeks now. And Hibbs, Crump and Stanley. What you got, Chris?
I was surprised that nobody did that before Gavin did. I feel like if they would have trapped Chad on the bottom, that whole line could have passed him in a lap or two. But they keep working to his bottom. And you look at Gavin here, watch this guy run through 1 and 2 on this top side. There's a ton of grip up there. Yeah, it's hard on the tires, but if you all it takes is to do it once, you get a huge run and you're You use it to make a pass, as Fody does get by Chad on the bottom.
Riding on board here with Gavin Hibbs, you can see he's getting up much higher than most other cars are willing to go, but also dipping down here off of turn number 4. Get that run behind Matthew Weeks. You don't necessarily want to be up on the high side coming off of 4 there, Chris. There's that bit of push that'll pull you up into the wall as he's going to get to the high side of Weeks. We'll see if Hibbs is able to conclude it this time. Don't think he'll be able to. I believe Matthew Weeks has just enough of a run to clear up in front. Yes, he does. Move Weeks back up into the 4th spot. Hibbs down to 5th, and it's crazy to think we only have a handful of guys that have actually moved forward here so far, Chris. Fody up 2 spots, Hibbs up 3, Pop up 1, Ultra up 2, Tooker up 10, Campbell up 2, Thompson up 5, and Goodman up 2. Everyone else either down or stagnant here so far.
Well, I'll tell you right now, we talk about cars that are coming through and cars that are dropping. We got 2 ships out here that are sinking. We got, we'll call them the White Star Line out here. We got the Olympic and the Titanic, and Ethan Stanley and Chad Frankenfield are driving these 2 ships right now, and they are sinking as we stand here. Ethan Stanley's given up a couple spots, and Chad is just fighting for all he's worth, but I don't know how much longer Chad's going to be able to... there it is. Gavin's got to his top.
I think one thing that's helping Chad Frankenfield, honestly, is the battling that's going on behind him. That's holding guys back from being able to set free and set sail to try to get around that 15 of Frankfield. Now that Hibbs is up on the high side, that should clear Gavin up into position number 3. Yes, it does. Crump now going to get quite a good run here down the back straight. Going to dive to the inside of Frankenfield. Frankenfield going to dive deep into the corner, though. This is not necessarily going to pay off well for Frankenfield, but I actually think it might work out worse there for Crump, as they're going to be side by side, a tight side by side, working their way down the front straight away. We'll see who's able to clear this time. We might go 3 wide. Actually, it would have been a Chad wide moment right there, as Chad was thinking about going 3 wide middle between Crump and Hibbs. He's going to think better of it, or just not really be able to get there, as he falls his way back into position number 5. So Lytle continues to lead by over a second ahead of Tyler Fody. Gavin Hibbs a second and a half back. He's got Scott Crump behind him. Chad Frankenfield under fire again from Matthew Weeks. So Weeks once again trying to work his way up inside that top 5 by the Chad Frankenfield number 15 machine, but he's also under fire here from Tyler Pop himself. So Pop, Stanley, Burrell, Racimus all behind. If you slip up just a little bit, open up that inside, you can get absolutely freight trained here, Chris.
Yeah, especially if you've abused your stuff, like we're seeing Chad. Weeks keeps working to his bottom. These other guys outside of Fody passed him on the top.
I gotta think this is hurting Weeks' tires.
Yeah, Weeks has watched all these other guys pass him, and Weeks keeps going to the bottom. We'll see if he can do it this time, but if I'm Weeks, I'm going to be trying to get to his top. If you get to Chad's top with him being ill-handling, there's nothing he's going to be able to do. There's no fight Chad can put up on the bottom.
Could this be a comfort thing for Weeks, though? Maybe he's more comfortable on the bottom than he is up top?
Well, I think it's kind of like what you said there. He's abusing his tires trying to make this pass, and I think he thinks if he runs the top, he'll abuse his tires. But I think if you just do it one time and you make the pass or get to his outside and you finish that pass.
Oh, that's tight.
Yeah, that's real tight.
Wow.
I think it would be way better on his tires if he'd just go to the top and make the pass instead of having to keep fighting like he is.
Yeah, by forcing it to the inside here, Chris, especially with the way Charlotte Motor Speedway is, you're putting a lot of force on that right front tire, and that's definitely going to eat it up, put those temperatures up through the roof, and now you see Weeks under fire from Tyler Pop. Pop is really closed in that gap, but Weeks not giving up now. He's trying to get that hole on the outside of that 15 machine of Frankenfield, but Frankenfield doing what he needs to do as well, not opening the door there for Matthew Weeks, as they're going to go side by side through turns 1 and 2. Weeks on the inside, Frankenfield up top. What might help Weeks here is if Tyler Pop were to follow suit on the inside, maybe get to the left rear of Frankenfield and loosen that car up a little bit. But Pop now going to get to the inside of Frankenfield. Weeks was able to complete the pass, move Matthew Weeks up into position number 5. Tyler Pop trying to get himself up into that 6th spot. We'll see if he's able to clear Frankenfield this time. We'll see if he goes higher or if he goes low as well, Chris. That's something that, of course, has come into play. And actually, Frankenfield taking a look to the outside of Weeks, not able to close up that gap quite enough to get there, but we'll keep our eyes peeled on this one. Frankenfield around!
Oh, we're wrecking! It's Chad.
Chad Frankenfield loses it. I don't believe he had help from Tyler Popp. We're going to take another look at it here on the Rebilas photography replay machine, but I think Frankenfield just went around on his own. Maybe some net code on the left rear, but we will take a look here as we come off of turn 2. He dives down to try to get to the inside of Weeks without hitting him. Yeah. I think there was some net code off of Chad being sideways right there. You can see it here, Chris, if you're watching the production feed. In just a moment here, Chad's rear end's going to kick out. Yeah, right there. Looks like a little bit of net code, and then that left rear just goes around on Chad. Nothing Tyler Popp really could have done differently. And Chad, I don't even know that there was much he could have done differently. That wasn't a huge impact to the inside wall. So I think he's okay.
Chad could have been smarter about that situation. Chad just got passed by Weeks, and then he's trying to get a big run, and he almost stuffed it in the fence off of 2. He was trying to commit to that throttle so much that's why he had that big run. It's, you got to know when to fight and when you got to find your way to the next pit stop. I think Chad would have been better served right there, finding his way to the next pit stop instead of trying to take that fight back to Weeks.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right on that, Chris. And I just want to point something out here. Kyle Hanshaw is the only car to stay out. This is not rare for him to do that. Stay out, give himself an opportunity to potentially get off strategy and go for something a little bit different. So we'll see if he does opt to stay out. But Chris, this is a good time as ever. Tate Lytle wins the race off of pit road ahead of Tyler Fode and Gavin Hibbs, 3 wide behind them. It's Weeks, Stanley, and Popp coming off of pit road, but we're going to step away real quick. When we come back, we'll take you through the middle portion of tonight's Charlotte 150. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
The NASCAR Cup Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway on June 1st and 2nd, 2024. The time to get your tickets is now. For only $10 down, you can lock in your seats for an incredible weekend of family fun, featuring the Enjoy Illinois 300 and the Confluence Music Festival. Racing, music, camping, it all adds up to one amazing party. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
And we are back here at Charlotte. You can see the lights are off on the iRacing.com pace car. Barney the flag man has the green flag in hand. He is ready. Fred the pace car driver has the steering wheel in hand. Chris, he's ready to make that turn down to pit lane, cleaning up after the first caution of the day. A little spin involving Chad Frankenfield and the Tyler Popp entry. Nothing really major there. No real heavy impact to the inside wall for Frankenfield, so he will be able to continue on. A tally was issued to the 15, but everything else is A-OK as we'll hand the field over to Tate Lytle and Tyler Fode. They're going to get set to bring us back to the green flag here. Chris Wright, 34 laps in, coming to lap 35. Of course, the halfway point at the end of lap 50, coming to 51. Lytle wants to steal it from these playoff guys. We'll see if he's able to do it. Green flag's out. Lytle back on the loud pedal.
Yeah, and one thing of note here, too, is David Tooker is up to about, 14th place or so.
David Tooker currently scored 14th. That's correct. Yep.
That's a guy to watch right here. I think he's a little further up. He's going to be able to drive through here. He's right in there behind Nick Massey right now. And we'll see if these two guys, Nick's not... Nick has not had the playoffs he's wanted. He's just survived.
Hey, survival is sometimes what you need to do to make it to the next round, and that's what Nick Massey did, Chris. As we'll take a look at the points under the next caution entering tonight. Of course, this is the first race of the second round, so nothing really to write home about as of yet, but watch Gavin Hibbs here, the 95, Chris, of course, winner last week, Wednesday night in the Cup Series at Talladega, and now finds himself in position number 2, riding that wave of momentum and riding the high side, trying to get by Tate Lytle here. We'll see if he's able to get there and attempt the pass here. Ethan Stanley just behind him. Then it's Tyler Fode and Tyler Popp in the top 5. So Tyler Popp, despite being slightly involved in the latest incident, still in the top 5 as Hibbs works the high side and moves himself to the race lead.
Oh, we're wrecking off a turn 2.
Nick Massey involved, Jesse Racines involved. Oh, man, we'll take a look at this one. See what just happened. Involved Nick Massey. It involved Jesse Racines. Might have involved Hunter Smith as well. Question mark. We'll take a look here. I'm thinking maybe Jesse comes up here, just looking at the angle off the corner. And that is exactly what happens. The 70 of Jesse Racines comes up across the nose of the 48 of Nicholas Massey, and they're going to go for a slide down the back straightaway. Racines likely to pick up the most of the damage there, able to continue on though. Nick Massey also still scored in the 12th position. Racines all the way back to 26th here. We'll see who comes down pit lane. Chris, tally on the 70, I would say, on that one, but we'll wait for your confirmation on that. But we just heard from the folks at Worldwide Technology Raceway, one of our premier partners here in the Elite Racing League, alongside Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small businesses, small business owners. Blue Egg is your biggest fan, and of course Rebilas Photography, rebilasphoto.com for all your photography needs. Check them out, let them know Elite Racing League sent you. We have a couple of takers here on pit road: Michael Hosick, Brent Jones, Chad Frankenfield, Michael Goodman, Kyle Hanshaw, and of course Jesse Racines, just involved in the latest incident there. And of course, back up front, Gavin Hibbs had just taken the race lead over prior to that caution, and we're about 12 laps remaining in this opening portion of the day before that halfway point is awarded. And like promised, let's take a look at the points here and see where everyone stands coming into this particular night at this beautiful racetrack. Let's get those points open here for you. As you can see there, Chase Cabry not here tonight, Chris Wright. He was the top seed coming into this second round here. Tyler Fode, Ethan Stanley, Matthew Weeks, David Tooker, Scott Crump, Nick Massey, Seth Rawls, and Gerald Campbell, the rest of the pecking order there. Cabry should fall down to last in that order, potentially after tonight. Depends on how many points Rawls, Campbell, and Massey do score in this one. But he's going to have quite a bit of work to do ahead of him here when we head to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway next week for the second race of round number 2. And then we'll wrap up round 2 at the Bristol Motor Speedway on June 3rd before we cut this field of 9 down to just the top 4 for the championship finale, which of course will come at the Chicagoland Speedway on June the 17th. So a couple of off weeks still to come towards the end of this season, but lots of great racing action in store for all of us here. Chris, don't know if you've had a chance to review that incident, but why don't you give us the race control ruling when you got a chance?
Yeah, the like you said there, that one was a pretty easy call. Race control didn't have. Both these have been relatively easy calls tonight, and that one's going to go on the 70. Got to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings there when you're sliding up the track. You know, I know that spotter calls it late in that spot, but
yeah,
everybody is outfitted with a mirror.
Oh, for sure. And you have the relative box as well, which shows you where people are running in comparison to your cars. We take a look here from the stands once again. Great crowd here at the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Gavin Hibbs leading alongside Tate Lytle. It's Ethan Stanley and Tyler Fode in row 2. Tyler Popp, Matthew Weeks, row 3. Ethan Burrell, Scott Crump in row 4 with Tyler McIntosh and Jay Connor rounding out the top 10 as we're going to get set to go green once again. Fred, the pace car driver, going to take that car down to the pit lane and set us in the hands of Barney, the flagman, and Gavin, the race leader, here in just a few moments time. Pace cars off. We're getting set once again. Gavin Hibbs, the number 95 HD machine. That's Hibbs Designs on board the Shifty Sports Ford Mustang. Back underway here. The loud pedal has been pushed, and Gavin Hibbs out to a substantial race lead here already ahead of Tate Lytle and Ethan Stanley.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are worried about getting this halfway point. But Gavin says, I'll take that this week if I don't mind. Still 10 laps away from it, but...
Well, Lytle's going to take over that lead, actually. He gets a push there from Ethan Stanley, and he's going to jet back out to the race lead. Stanley to the inside of Gavin Hibbs there, side by side for second. Hibbs taking a look to the outside of Lytle once again. Is he going to be able to get there? We'll keep an eye on this one. Tyler Fody just behind him as well. That is the 4th place car of Tyler Fody, trying to work the high side. Lytle trying to clear himself up very tightly ahead of Gavin Hibbs. We'll see if potentially Hibbs didn't like that too much. Maybe some bumper play going to come into it at some point. Of course, Gavin Hibbs and Tate Lytle, both non-playoff drivers, so they are solely here for victories at this Charlotte Motor Speedway here tonight, Chris.
Yeah, they're solely here to trophy hunt. Ethan Stanley's trying to get a playoff point. And these guys that he's racing around could care less about the playoffs. They just want to win.
I mean,
Gavin,
that's what I'd be here for,
the
too.
defensive line there. Tate said, you're not going to go to my bottom.
Tate knows what he's doing. He's very, very good at this. He's been doing this quite some time. Winner all the time, multi-time champion in this series. He knows how to get it done. Even though he's not in a playoff position here, he's going to be the guy to watch every race that he shows up. He's going to be one of those front runners. So Tate Lytle being out front here side by side with Gavin Hibbs, not really surprising. And Hibbs himself, Chris, has really come alive over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months as we ride on board with him again. Currently trying to cook and book up on the high side. He's done a great job of it so far and is continuing to do so. The Shift Esports driver doing a fantastic job as he retakes the race lead ahead of Tate Lytle.
Yeah, he's got Ethan Stanley, Tyler Pop right behind him. You see back to the field, just a couple cars trying to work that top lane. Oh, Dustin Dewar just left the lobby.
Did he leave or did he disconnect due to connection?
It says that he left. Was he not just running up there?
He was running up there in the top 15, I do believe, because he fell quite a bit down the pecking order here tonight. So not sure what happened for Dustin Dewar. I know there's quite a bit of storms going through the northern portions of the United States, so maybe something rolling by in Dusty's area that decided, well, let's take cover rather than worry about this iRacing race.
I can tell you this, it does look like he had some kind of connection issue, so it doesn't look like he just left like the sim says. The sim says he just left, but...
The sim lied, folks. The sim
I know he's going to
did
be pretty
lie.
disappointed because he was wanting to go back-to-back. He was wanting the opportunity to present itself tonight for him to be able to win this race tonight, and it's very unfortunate to not get to try to defend the race that you won last week.
But you know what? No matter what, Chris Wright, he's always going to be a race winner, even though he's not going to go back-to-back here tonight. Still going to be a race winner. Still going to have the chance next season to back up that victory by winning the same race 2 years in a row, which would be pretty cool, and maybe stamp his name on that trophy as the perennial contender for that one.
Yeah, and we are approaching the stage end here. We're just a couple laps away, and it does not look like a playoff guy is going to be able to win this thing.
Unless we get a mega push here for
drastic
Stanley.
happens.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here, but Stanley currently holding on to that third spot behind Tate Lytle, behind Gavin Hibbs. He is the closest playoff driver to the front. Actually, he's the only playoff driver within that top six. His seventh is Tyler Fody which is that next playoff driver. But Gavin Hibbs under fire once again from Tate Lytle. He's going to take the defensive line once again, drops down in front of that 56 days gone by. Elite Performance Industries, number 56 of Tate Lytle, who currently resides in that second spot. The Blue Egg Marketing 92 of Ethan Stanley trying to get up there to steal the top spot from the Hibbs Designs 95. Shift Esports Ford Mustang that continues to lead here as we are on the final lap here of the first half. So a halfway point on the line here, side by side. Lytle on the inside, Hibbs up top off of turn number 2.
Yeah, and this point really doesn't mean a whole lot to these two guys. They're just trying to keep
Absolutely
it from each other.
not. It's bragging rights.
Gavin's kind of up there in the points. Tate's missed a lot of races.
I mean, if you're not in the playoffs, does the points really matter?
I mean, every spot in the points matters. You know, 10th's better than 11th, which is better than 12th, which is better than 13th.
And Gavin Hibbs going to take the top spot here at the end of that first half. Watching Ty McIntosh working the high side there. That's something his teammate in the 95, Gavin Hibbs, did earlier on, and it worked for him. But unfortunately for Tyler McIntosh, it's going to lead to a slight brush with the outside wall. Still a good day for him so far, up 6 positions. Now 5 is Tyler Fody going to have the advantage on the inside of him. Lytle looking back to the inside of Gavin Hibbs for the top spot. Hibbs not really giving Lytle a big amount of room on the entry of these corners to open it up the way that he might like to, but great battle here up front between Hibbs and Lytle, as well as Ethan Stanley just behind Tyler Pop there as well. We see Nick Massey jumping down to the inside to Ty McIntosh. Maybe McIntosh just wore those tires out a little bit too quickly there. Matthew Weeks just behind, and welcome to the top 10. David Tooker, the 19 on the inside of Gerald Campbell.
Yeah, he's not there yet, but I will tell you this, we're not watching, but the 25 and the 15 have been going at it. They have been dive bombing each other. There has been a little bit of door banging, and they just got a little bit verbal with each other.
Looks like it's calmed down a little bit just behind Joe Campbell into the wall. Tooker driving in the gas up there. He's on the gas, Chris Wright, as he works his way up to
the gas, in the grass, baby. Trying to find his Interdale Senior passing in the grass.
Absolutely, absolutely. Gavin Hibbs, Tate Lytle, Ethan Stanley, Tyler Pop, Ethan Burrell, the top 5. Then is Tyler Fody, Nick Massey, Matthew Weeks, David Tooker, and Ty McIntosh, the top 10. Gerald Campbell just behind there. We have a lot of cars in very close quarters here. Seth Rawls and Connor Thompson, the tail of what's the current lead group, but just behind even, we're side by side. Mark Rebilas going to actually clear Brandon Ultra. Michael Goodman there as well. Kyle Hanshaw, Brent Jones, Michael Hosick, and Jaden Racimus. Racimus a little bit further back, but Hosick at the tail of this lead group is only 4 seconds behind Tate Lytle, so not a huge gap for such a big pack here. We're still side by side for the lead. Gavin Hibbs with the advantage at the line.
Crump hit the wall there off of 4. And I picked Crump to win this thing. He's falling back through the
That's why he hit the wall. Look at how miserable Nick Massey was every time he picked him. And then, oh, that's getting tight right there. Drew Campbell, Ty McIntosh. Maybe a little bit of retribution from what might have happened earlier on. Of course, they were very tightly together when Tooker went through the grass on the gas. Things are getting tight here.
We said grass, and that's not grass. That's turf. Charlotte's got that turf down there.
That's right. It's fake grass.
That's that fake grass, yeah.
Side by side for the lead once again. Gavin Hibbs up top. Tate Lytle on the inside. Here comes Ethan Burrell to the inside of Ethan Stanley. So move Burrell to the top Ethan spot. And that is the 3rd spot on the podium here so far. About 44 laps to go. Actually, 44 laps to go. Coming to 43 this time for Gavin Hibbs out front. This is the tightest battle on the racetrack right now. Nose to tail between Ethan Stanley and Ethan Burrell. Tyler Pop just behind them as well as Lytle. Going to look back to the inside of Gavin Hibbs. Chris, we got guys side by side everywhere in this pack right now. Ty McIntosh, Gerald Campbell still side by side for position at the end of the top 10. Campbell now inside the top 10 in 10th. McIntosh wants to work his way back up there. Jay Connor looking to the inside. We might be 3 wide momentarily here as McIntosh and Campbell make a little bit of door-to-door contact. Just an update on David Tooker. He's now up into the 8th position, just got by Matthew Weeks as we have another side-by-side battle for the lead. Tate Lytle briefly had it over Gavin Hibbs, but Hibbs continuing to work the high lane here, Chris, and it is absolutely paying off for him. Currently leads the way ahead of Tate Lytle as we're coming around to lap number 60.
Yeah, we're coming around here to work the lap to number 60. We are in the fuel window as Jay runs down through the grass. That's the second time somebody's beside Gerald had to run through the grass. I don't know if it was Gerald's fault or not, but let me tell you, these boys are really, really racing hard through this field. Some of these guys wearing their stuff out, getting tight. Some of these other guys trying to pass them, and those other guys not wanting to give an inch. And it's very interesting. And Chad is being super aggressive with everybody that he's around back here.
Battling for the lead does continue, but if they worry about each other for too long, they're going to forget that 37 of Burrell right there. Ethan Burrell sneaking his way up there towards that battle for the race lead. It's Hibbs up top, Lytle on the inside, and Burrell going to get in line there as well. They're nose to tail for the top 3. We'll see if Burrell, what he does. He looks to the high side, not quite able to get there this time, but I would not be surprised if within the next 2 to 3 laps that 37 puts himself at the top of the podium.
Yeah, and one thing Ethan's doing is he's been on that top side. We'll get a good read here on if he's going to fall off at some point. He's kind of drug everybody to the top. You see this? As everybody's driving, this is defensive driving at its best right here. Against our first, 5 cars?
Correct,
You're not going to get higher than me, and then the guy behind them's not going to get higher than me. Oh, Chad Frankenfield on the backstretch.
Chuck E. Cheese goes around again. He's able to gather it back up. Looks like he might have had a moment with Brandon Ultra, is what I want to say here. Let's take a look. I'm going to back this one up manually, folks. Just see what happened to Chad here real quick. I believe he had some sort of an issue with Brandon Ultra because Ultra... No! He actually drives that 16 of Thompson up into the wall and then slides down to the inside, so... Race Control technically could throw a second tally at that 15.
Race Control is looking at the replay, and Race Control sees a lot of space between those 2 cars when the 15 starts getting turned.
That 15 getting aggressive. That Chad Frankenfield fella. This is getting tied up here as well, Chris. It's Ethan Burrell all over Tate Lytle. Lytle trying to close the gap back up to Gavin Hibbs as we're coming to 36 laps to go this time. Hibbs continuing to lead ahead of Lytle, Burrell, Pop, and Stanley. There's some battling going on back here. It's Scott Crump side by side with Ty McIntosh. That's getting tight for the 12th position on the track, but we got to go back up front where there's some door banging for the race lead. Lytle to the top. Wow. Things are getting aggressive up here. Gavin Hibbs now going to look back to the inside. Not able to get there. Going to get back in line behind Tate Lytle. Looks back to the high side. We'll see if Lytle blocks it off this time. Coming to 35 to go. It's Lytle, Hibbs, and Burrell, the top 3 with Tyler Pop and Ethan Stanley closing that gap. Jesse Racimus takes his number 70 to pit lane, but we do continue on here. Ty McIntosh, Mark Rebilas coming down as well. So that pit window definitely opening up here, Chris Wright. So we're going to get close to seeing some of these guys work their way down from that top 10 right now as Ethan Stanley just got a little piece of the wall. Who's going to be the first one to bite and take their car down pit lane? Will it be the 95 of Hibbs following suit with what Ty McIntosh's teammate did? Yes, it will. Here comes the 95 of Gavin Hibbs, going to work his way down pit road. The first of our leaders to come down for what should be their final stop. Also on pit road is Chad Frankenfield, who of course we saw go for a slide not long ago. Lytle getting a little bit of the apron there, getting a little bit slideways. It's going to be side by side. Pop and Burrell battling it out for position number 2. Tyler Popp with the advantage. We'll see if he's able to pull away from Ethan Burrell here, and who will be the next of the leaders to come down pit lane. It won't be Lytle, won't be Burrell, won't be Popp, Stanley, or Massey at this point in time. Gavin Hibbs going to exit pit lane, going to lose a lap to the leaders, but he will get that back once the pit cycle has concluded here. But Chris, this is going to get interesting with the varying pit calls here.
Yeah, it's very interesting getting around here right now, and there's some talk about maybe some guys trying to save fuel. They are about 6 laps short of making it, so they would have to save
That's
quite a
going
bit
to
of
be
fuel.
tough.
But if somebody pitted on that last caution, I don't know if you have that information for us. If those cars pitted on that last caution, they would be within about 2 or 3 laps. And that we're talking, you could save 2 or 3 laps of fuel over the course of a full run.
We'll take a look at it here on your screen. We'll expand this a little bit for you. Magic.
Yeah, so there we go.
Goodman, Hanshaw, Brent Jones. Looks like the cars that pit on the last one. Michael Hosick as well. We'll see how this pays off. Ethan Burrell comes down pit road, though, here, Chris. That's another one of those race leaders. So we'll keep our eyes peeled, see how this works out. Maybe somebody will be able to make it. Of course, Hanshaw and Jones running 15th and 16th. Goodman up there in 13th. He would be the first one I think might have a shot to make it to the end based off of pitting when he did. But we'll see how those tires pay off for them here when it gets down to the end of this one. Burrell still in his box now, exiting. Joe Campbell comes down. Seth Rawls comes down as well.
I can go find out. Give me like 5 seconds.
Yeah, Chris Wright going to go on a mission here. 30 laps to go. It's Tate Lytle, Tyler Popp, Ethan Stanley, Nick Massey, and David Tooker, the top 5 here, as these drivers seeing who can make it to the end and who will have to come down pit lane for a stop. It's going to be tight for some of these guys. Of course, like Chris said, about 6 laps is the gap between being good and not quite being able to make it. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. Side by side, Brandon Ultra on the high side, Matthew Weeks on the inside. Weeks going to lose the position there as Burrell gets into Brandon Ultra. Gets sideways, does continue on, no caution. That's new tires versus old there. Burrell on the fresh ones. Ultra and Goodman, of course, on the older tires from that last caution period, which of course came prior to the halfway point. Tate Lytle, your leader, comes down. Tyler Popp, the second place car, and Nick Massey, one of those top 5ers, also working his way down pit lane. So Ethan Stanley now inherits the race lead ahead of David Tooker, our biggest mover by far here today. Tyler Fody, Jay Connor, and Scott Crump now the top 5. Hunter Smith, Michael Goodman, Brandon Ultra, Matthew Weeks, and Brenton D. Jones currently run in the top 5 as we're quickly approaching 25 to go. This is getting down to the late stages of it. Jay Connor going to pit from the top 5 as well. Brandon Ultra going to join him on pit lane. And Chris Wright has rejoined us. Chris Wright, what'd you get for us, Inspector?
Goody says if the stays green, they are not coming back to pit road.
Ooh. We'll see how that works out for the do-good fella and Michael Goodman. He's the good in do-good. Of course, Chris, he saw Dustin Dewar pick up his first win last week after 451 starts. Now Goody, the only one in the top 3 of the elite start list that does not have a victory. He's trying to get it done tonight via the off strategy. David Tooker works his way to pit lane, and that moves Michael Goodman into the top 5. Tooker missed his box, actually had to back it up there on pit lane, and you can see Goody trying to back it down just a little bit here. Actually, no, he's letting some of those. Yeah, go ahead.
Look at Tyler Fody and Scott Crump. They are trying to save about 6 laps of fuel here.
That's impossible.
Yeah, I'm just telling you.
It's impossible. There's no way you're going to save 6 laps. 25 to go. I wish them the best of luck, but I just don't think it's going to work out.
And they're trying to save it pretty late in the run as well. Like, this isn't something where they started saving a while ago. I just don't know. I think they waited too late. Look at the pace they're having to run here.
Massive pace difference. Let's actually see here between Scott Crump and Hunter Smith. Smith is substantially quicker than the 90 of Scott Crump here, but he's stuck behind him, which unfortunately isn't working out for him. Well, maybe Hunter Smith's playing the game as well. We'll see. Ethan Stanley.
I think Hunter Smith is.
I don't think Stanley's playing the game.
Yeah, Stanley's not.
And those numbers right there, the speed, that doesn't count. Yeah, here comes Stanley now down pit lane. That'll hand the lead over to Tyler Fode. Scott Crump, Hunter Smith will be the top 3 now, with Michael Goodman and Matthew Weeks the top 5. Of course, once again, taking a look at the pit strategy. It's been a while for this top 10 since they've made their way down pit lane. The first car on tires will, in just a moment's time, be the 10th place car of Gavin Hibbs.
Hey, what happened to Tate Lytle?
I'm not sure. He must have sped.
I see that he had to make a second pit stop.
I'm thinking he sped, Chris, or maybe he pushed up on exit, had a bad exit of pit road, or exit, illegal pit exit, or whatever it's called.
I don't know if you can go back that far, but lap 72, 73, he might have sped, and then it looks like he has trouble down in his pit box, and they didn't change tires.
Wow, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, Tate has a ton of trouble backing up on pit road, trying to get back in his box.
He must have sped, because he spent 1 minute and 24 seconds in his pit box, Chris, on that first go around, and then he came back down once again. So just unfortunate there for Tate Lytle. What was definitely going to be a good race has completely gone out the window now. 4 laps down. Connor Thompson gonna pit from the top 10, works his way down to pit lane. So your top 3 continues to be Fode, Crump, and Smith, followed by Goodman, Weeks. That's the top 5. Jones, Hanshaw, and Jaden Racimus are the top 8. Those are the last guys to come down pit road here. Gavin Hibbs, Ethan Burrell on those fresher tires. We'll see what they're able to do. The gap right now between Fode and that of Gavin Hibbs is about a half of a lap, 17 seconds. We'll see, Chris. We'll see. With the pace difference, I don't know. I think Gavin Hibbs might be quick enough if these guys really have to save as hard as they currently are.
Well, remember, Gavin was one of the first ones to pit, so, like, then we got to talk about Ethan catching him and Nick catching them. Like, it's... Can Gavin have the pace to be able to keep doing it without getting caught from behind?
This is going to be tough, because you're going to have the tire wear that's going to come into play for those guys that did pit, that might even things out. So we'll keep our eyes peeled, see what happens. Gavin Hibbs did just get by Jaden Racimus, so Racimus on the old tires now falling back to 9th, so he's gotten passed by some of those fresher tires. Not sure about that call, but you know, wilder things have worked out for guys, so we'll see how this one goes. Jaden Racimus now getting passed by Ethan Burrell. Tate Lytle just got by, but of course Lytle now 4 laps down in 24th after a catastrophic pit sequence.
And Jaden comes to pit road. So we'll see what happens here. Like, we'll have to, you know, look at... You got Fode and Crump out here. I don't know if they can make it. I know they're saving really hard.
It's going to be interesting to see how this works. I just don't know that I have the most faith in it. It's 17 laps still to go. And of course, last time Fode was down pit road, Chris, was lap 32. So he's expecting to go about 70 laps just about on this set of tires and on this tank of fuel. I'm not sure about it.
What's Matthew Weeks' strategy in all this right now? Has he been to pit road in the screen flag cycle?
Matthew Weeks, no. Weeks, so Fode, Crump, Smith, and Weeks all pit on lap 32. Goodman, Jones, and Hanshaw pit on lap 39. And then Gavin Hibbs, Ethan Burrell on 66 with Tyler Popp, or on 69, sorry, and Tyler Popp on 72.
And Tyler was down with Nick, I believe, right? So
Correct.
I think Nick is the cutoff. I don't think anybody behind Nick is going to have a shot in the end of this race. And Nick on up, depending on how the strategy plays out, what kind of pace you can run on these old tires, can you stay out there in front of the guys on new tires, and then on how Ethan catches Gavin and Tyler catches Ethan. And so I'm thinking that Nick, I don't know if you would agree, Nick's the cutoff. Nobody under Nick's going to have a shot to win this if it stays green.
I don't even know if we can go that far back, honestly, at this point. It really does depend what this top 5 can do, top 6, I guess, can do, because Hibbs is already working his way through some of the older tires. Just got by Kyle Hanshaw, so Hanshaw going to fall back here. I think he's just hoping to get a better finish than what he was going to have, as we do have a battle for the lead here. Scott Crump going to take a look on Tyler Fode, but as teammates here, you don't really want to battle too hard either, because you don't want to wear those tires out even more than you need to.
Well, this is a race for fuel. Do you have enough fuel? Do I need to run you out of fuel? How much fuel, And Hunter Smith sitting there.
Run me out of fuel, Chris Wright.
Hunter Smith is sitting there. Can I run them both out of fuel without running myself out of fuel? And Goody's got the most fuel out of all of them. What's Goody's situation? Are they going to run out? Does Goody recognize that he needs to run these guys down? That's another question. Does Goody recognize that these guys are trying to make it and he needs to go get them?
I think Goody knows that he has those extra laps on the likes of Smith, Crump, and Fode. So if he can maintain about that 4-second gap between himself and Matthew Weeks, he's putting himself in a really good spot, because once Hunter Smith gets up here, as we ride on board with him, they're going to start battling even more in this top 3, and that's going to work more fuel out of these cars, work those tires even more, and potentially lead to them having to come down pit road. So I don't want to say this. I really don't want to say this, Chris Wright, because I don't want to jinx this guy. But I think Michael Goodman's in the best spot right now out of anybody.
I do too. I like where Goodman's at, because
I
feel
really
like
do.
Gavin,
I love it.
I think Gavin's going to use his stuff up. I think Gavin is going to get passed by everybody back to Nick. I think they're all going to pass Gavin.
Look at the tower, okay? Look at the tower. It's not really dropping rapidly anymore. So Gavin Hibbs has really started to work those tires in. Yes, he's gaining a bit of time here and there, but we're coming to the point where he needs to gain a second a lap, which he's just not doing. So I honestly do believe that Michael Goodman is in the best spot of this entire field right now. We'll see how this works out. Of course, things could go sideways in an instant. All it takes is one driver to make the slightest of mistakes, and all of a sudden we're under caution. And oh no. Goody's blinking now, Chris Wright.
Yeah.
Oh no. I hope that doesn't come into... Oh, Hunter Smith almost sideways there, coming off of turn number 2, but all it takes is one slight mistake, and the likes of Crump, Fode, Smith, Goodman, they're all going to have to come down pit road, and they're all going to be buried towards the rear of the field, because some of these guys will stay out. I think most of them would pit, but it's going to get very interesting anyways to see how this works out. Hibbs is 9.5 seconds back of Scott Crump, now 5 seconds back of Michael Goodman. So we'll see how this pans out here over the next handful of laps. Matthew Weeks falling back. I think those tires have just about expired on that number 11 machine, or he's realized, well, I'm just not going to make it on fuel. Hanshaw was on that same strategy as those guys as well, Chris. He has now come down pit road from the 21st position, so he fell quite a bit and now just does not have the fuel to make it to the end. So if I'm Crump, Fode, and Smith, I'm starting to get a little worried.
It's going to be close, man.
I don't know that they're going to be able to do it, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. 8 laps, coming to 7 this time for Scott Crump. The number 90 Blue Egg Marketing Stay Tuned Sports Podcast machine for Lake Norman Motorsports. He's trying to get there. Still 4 seconds between Goody and Hibbs as well. That's a gap I'm going to pay quite a bit of attention to over this next while. Hunter Smith falling back quite a bit there. I think he's realizing that his tires and his fuel is a lot worse off than he thought at this point. So 7 to go, coming to 6. What do you got, Chris?
The 95 and 13 are about to battle. They know that they're racing for the win if all of this fuel strategy goes out the window.
Correct.
And the 95 is out of tires. He has used them up.
It's going to be interesting.
Now them racing, I told you, everybody back to Nick Massey was still in this thing. Ethan Burrell all of a sudden is going to be right there with them. You look right behind him, there's Ethan, and not too far behind Ethan is Nick Massey.
Because you didn't pick him this week, that's why.
Hey, the guy I picked is leading the race right now. We're sitting pretty good if we got the fuel in there.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm not feeling the strategy. Last time we doubted their strategy, though, Chris, it worked, and they kicked us in the face. So we'll see how this one goes. Coming to 5 to go for Scott Crump.
Yeah, 5 to go.
Hibbs and Pop still side by side.
Man, this is going to be entertaining right here towards the end.
Goody catching Hunter Smith here, so we might have a battle momentarily for third.
Here's the question. You know, Goody got that pit stop in there after they did. Does Hunter have the fuel to race Goody?
Hunter Smith has 7 laps less fuel than Michael Goodman based off of when they came down pit road. Based off of what they've saved, I don't know. That's the big question mark for us, Chris, because we don't know how much they've saved. Now the gap between Goody and Hibbs is about 2.2 seconds. So Goody needs to step on it if he's got anything left to build that gap between himself and the number 95 of Hibbs, as well as the 13 of Pop. He has the 16 of Connor Thompson between them as well, which could help him out a little bit. But 3 to go now for Scott Crump, Tyler Fody, and Hunter Smith. The top 3, Michael Goodman, Tyler Pop. The top 5 as Pop and Hibbs continue to battle. Is this going to be a last lap running out of gas situation potentially for this top 3? I don't know, Chris. I really don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as Tyler Pop did get around Gavin there. And he's going to set his sights on Goody with just 2 laps to go, so that gap is very important.
We're going to ride on board here with Scott Crump. I just want to hear if he's turning the engine off in the corners. Nah, he's full send here.
Hunter Smith is slow on the front stretch. He might have just shut it off and coasted into the corner.
He did. He did. Car's back on. Car's back on for Hunter Smith. There's Gavin Hibbs. There's Tyler Pop in the background. Goody up on the podium currently as they're coming to the white flag. 1 lap to go for Scott Crump in the number 90 machine. Crump gonna see the white flag. Will he be able to come around to the checkers? We'll keep our eyes on that. Fody in second. Goodman in third, but he's closing on Fody here. We might have a battle for second before the end of this one between Tyler Fody and Michael Goodman. Crump continues down the back straight. I think he's A-OK to make it to the end of this one. There's Pop closing the gap on Goody. Is Goody going to be able to hold on to the podium here, Chris? Pop with a full send into the corner. Goody with a bit of a block. Goody, don't let him through. Crump gonna take the checkered flag. Victory for Crump ahead of Tyler Fody. And at the line, it's gonna be Tyler Pop for third.
Wow, Scott Crump on the economy run, making me look like a genius tonight.
No, don't exaggerate that much. Come on now.
Oh, man. Fody ran out of gas off of 4, still got the second.
Impressive. Impressive. I was not expecting them to make it to the end. Just look at this. Look at how far they made it. Kudos to Michael Goodman, man. Top 5 finish. His best finish in a long time. Best finish on a non-plate track probably ever. Finishing in that 4th position.
We got to bring home about Matthew Weeks did not have the end that he wanted.
No.
You know, Chad Frankenfield being a playoff guy. Tooker
Chad's not
12.
a playoff guy. He was eliminated last round, Chris.
Sorry. Chad was eliminated last week. Tooker only managed 12th. All the strategy kind of knocked some of these playoff guys who were looking at that 6th to 10th range down a little bit. But, I mean, we can't overstate enough the economy run that Scott Crump and Tyler Fody just pulled off.
No,
absolutely incredible.
That was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
I thought it was Goody. I thought the race for the win was Goody, and if they got to Goody, I did not think for one single second that Crump and Fody were going to go 70 laps. What a job.
What a job indeed. As you take a look at the results here on your screen, again, those in blue are your playoff drivers. Scott Crump, Tyler Fode, Tyler Popp, the top 3, followed by Michael Goodman, Gavin Hibbs, the top 5, Ethan Burrell, Nick Massey, Ethan Stanley. That's your top 4 playoff drivers in Crump, Fode, Massey, and Stanley tonight. Campbell and Connor round out the top 10. Then it's Rawls, Tooker, Frankenfield, McIntosh, Ultra, Rebilas with a good run in 16th, Hosick 17th, Weeks there in 18th. As we'll see if we can get to the end of the running order here. There it is. Brent Jones, Connor Thompson, Jaden Racimus, Kyle Hanshaw, Hunter Smith, Tate Lytle, Jesse Racimus, and Dustin Dorr round out the starters, with Jeff Green coming home in 27th. We're going to step away real quick. When we come back, we'll talk to your top 3 of Crump, Fode, and Pop. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
The NASCAR Cup Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway on June 1st and 2nd, 2024. The time to get your tickets is now. For only $10 down, you can lock in your seats for an incredible weekend of family fun, featuring the Enjoy Illinois 300 and the Confluence Music Festival. Racing, music, camping, it all adds up to one amazing party. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
And we are back here at Charlotte, just wrapping up the Charlotte 150. And now standing by is our third place finisher, Tyler Popp, with our very own Chris Wright.
Yeah, I am standing here with Tyler Popp. And Tyler, I'm sure you didn't know any more than we did coming down to the end of that race. You know, some of those guys did an economy run. Some of y'all got fresh tires. Talk to us about the end of that race and everything that led to you having a shot there. And did you think for a second when you took the white you might be the first one to come back to the checkered?
Well, thanks for asking. I don't know. It was tough. I knew we were 4 or 5 short. And I felt like I had the speed to be able to hold it, and maybe they wouldn't make it. Then no one seemed like they were saving at the end, but once we took the white, I was like, no way, these guys are too good. They're too committed, and they're just too consistent to make a mistake like trying to save and not make it. So just trying to haul ass and try to get to the front. But it was a good race. I'm definitely bummed I didn't get it done to get to the next round of the playoffs. I think I've had a real shot at making a run at the end, but it is what it is. It was a good day. It was fun, and yeah, there was definitely that thought that first one's coming.
Yeah, and that first wind is coming. You know, we saw all season long, we think, I don't know if you've heard us talking about you. You're probably one of the most improved guys that we've seen you steadily move your way up through the field and learning how to race at the front, and a lot of people might not get that who are watching, but tell us a little bit about the differences racing for someplace in the top 5 versus running 15th, how different the race is and how different they race you, and the nuances that you got to learn when you're running up there with the Tyler Fodeys of the world.
Chris, that is just like that is such the unsung, not known thing about this sport. And even if you're on the sim or in real life, you have to earn every position. And I've been in the league for a couple seasons now, and I've always been fast. I've been doing this for a long time, but in order to get the trust of the people racing around you consistently, to where maybe they let you go if you're a little bit faster, but if they don't really know you that well, they're going to race you hard. And just getting out of the top 20 took like a full year to just build that trust, build that level of camaraderie within the league. And then once you get up there, you start qualifying well, you run up front more, you just gain more and more respect. And then eventually, it's all very clean. I mean, those guys at the front, Chase, Fody, and 4 or 5 other guys are just lightning, so you got to be perfect every day to get there, but you got to do everything that you just said to get there. So, yeah, it's been great. It's been really, really good. I feel like just as a person, I've gotten a lot more consistent, more confident, and yeah, really excited for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and we saw you get to the 95, and you had to race him for about 5 to 7 laps. Do you think if you could have gotten around him a little bit quicker with your fresher tires, you might have been able to run to at least Tyler Fody in second, maybe even to Scott Crump? Scott was saving really hard there at the end.
Yeah. Again, I think, one of the things that does hurt me is I'm just, solo out there, don't have a teammate. I'm trying to figure out, should I save? Should I not? How many laps? What's going on with the leaders? How hard do I have to push? Could I have gotten a little bit more aggressive and, maybe not moved him, but maybe pushed him up the track a little bit? Maybe use the high side to whip around him a little quicker? Yeah, probably. But, in the moment, it's tough. I mean, you got, the tires were so rough there, and the high line just started dominating at the end. So passing was going to be tough in general. So even though I had a little bit fresher tires, it was still tough. I probably would have had to move them out of the groove, maybe been a little bit more aggressive on my entry, but then I slide up and wreck myself. So coulda, woulda, shoulda. I mean, I'm just thinking back to last week at Talladega, probably like my 10th place plate race in this league at the front of the pack. And I just make a stupid mistake. So, I definitely don't regret anything I did tonight, but definitely the first round that, knocked me out.
Well, all right, Tyler, before we let you jump out of here, celebrate this podium and try to build towards that first win. Hopefully you get that thing before the end of the season and take it from these playoff guys. But are there any sponsors you want to thank, shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, for sure. Well, you guys, just for the broadcast, I have heard the kind stuff that you guys have been saying about me on the broadcast. Really appreciate it. It's nice to know that the work is paying off and being recognized. And just a league, Chad, everyone, this has got to be one of the best leagues on the sim. And I'm really excited to just be around for a long time. And then my car sponsor, Intel, it's a part of a headhunting firm that I helped founded. And, we do a lot of engineering recruitment and all over the country. So if you're an engineer, any kind, hit me up. We might have something for you. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys.
All right, Tyler Pop, congrats on the run. We look forward to talking to you more down the road and maybe more often, get in here, every week or every other week. And it's been a lot of fun to watch somebody new who has put in the work get a chance to run up here amongst these guys and go for wins. And it's only a matter of time, man. So thanks for giving us the time tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, enough 4th place finishes. I'm ready for top 3s only.
That was Tyler Pop, the 3rd place finisher, and now I am joined by the other Tyler Fody. Tyler, how close were you on field there at the end?
I was out of gas coming out of 4 there. It was sputtering. I was watching Goody and Pop rolling up. Yeah. So we were not making another lap.
I got to ask you, how confident were you in that strategy when it came down to making the decision to skip that final pit stop and try to make it to the end there?
I was confident that we could make it, but I wasn't confident we would stay green to the end, which would have really screwed us the first half of that run. The second half, though, I was kind of hoping a caution would make it kind of interesting because we were still out in front. But yeah, I knew we could make it. Scott and I were talking about it. It would be super close, but we just needed it to go green because a yellow would have messed things up there. But I was caught up in the front pack a little bit, racing them 5-10 laps into the run before I really started clutching it. And Scott, talking to him, basically started within the first 3 laps or so, was clutching. So I was a little behind on the save there. I think he said he had a lap left coming to the checkered there, so he had about a lap on me. So hindsight, if I would have started right off the rip, we would have been, I think, battling each other there for that one. But still happy to make it to the end and get a 1-2. That was really cool.
Definitely cool to be able to go 1-2 with your teammate. And looking ahead to next week, we're heading to Las Vegas. Do you think you have a good shot there to be the first repeat winner of these 2024 A playoffs?
Yeah, I think we got a good shot everywhere, really. It's just about, the strategy and the yellows when they come out and just executing correctly. I do like Vegas, so I'd like to think we got a good shot, but you never know till we get there, so...
And really, while we're on the topic of Vegas as well, is there a sense of urgency to make sure you're locked in going out of Vegas and headed towards Bristol, knowing that Bristol really can either taste great, get you to victory, or chew you up and spit you out?
Yeah, that track, Bristol, Martinsville, any of those short tracks, you kind of have to treat like a super speedway, where you want to be safe going into it, not having to points race. Because that race can go one of two ways, either being a clean green race or just a junkyard. So I don't know where we should be okay right now with points, and hopefully we can just build on that next week and then not have to worry about it at Bristol.
So as of right now, just for your own math here, you are, I believe it's 37 points ahead of the cutoff, which is currently Matthew Weeks on the outside and David Tooker, the first car, on the inside of that top four. So as of right now, it's yourself, Ethan Stanley, Scott Crump, and David Tooker that would be the four cars advancing into that championship four. So for Lake Norman, it's looking pretty good after race number 1 here of round number 2. But Tyler, before we let you go here tonight, any sponsors you want to thank, shout outs you want to give for putting that number 40 machine on the racetrack?
Yeah, just everyone at Lake Norman there. I believe we were the highest finishing playoff guys between Crump, myself, and then Massey and Stanley.
Correct.
So that was really good. Massey, I think, is still going to be outside, but if we can capitalize and I'll have a good run next week, it might be looking pretty interesting going into Bristol with all of us. So, just shout out to those guys. Also, Jonathan Cutlip with JD Designs for sponsoring my car and painting the whole team's cars. So big shout out to him. And then also you guys here for putting on the show.
And just to close off on a point that you made there, yes, Nick Massey is currently on the outside looking in, but that gap between being in and being out right now is just 3 points. So very tight there for Nick Massey. We'll see what he can do next week. But Tyler, congratulations on the runner-up finish here tonight, and we will see you down in Las Vegas.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Chris, that was Tyler Fody, the runner-up here tonight, and I believe you are now standing by with our race winner, Scott Crump.
I am standing in victory lane right here with Scott Crump. Scott, I think they're going to be beating the doors off of me to get me to pick them moving on now. You've changed that narrative. Talk to us about your night, and when did you know you were going to start saving fuel to be able to run 70 laps there at the end?
Pretty much immediately, maybe like 5 laps into that last run. I just started clutching both corners. I knew it was going to be close. I knew we could do about 60 laps, so I had to save about 5 or so laps. And we ended up saving about 6 laps, so we had an extra lap there for a little bit for a burnout.
Now, what were you thinking as those final laps closed in? Were you thinking, I've got to keep Fody behind me? Or did you know you had a little bit more fuel than him? Were you thinking about the fresh tires? You thinking about Goody back there? Not sure if you knew that Goody was making it. Or were you thinking, I'm about to prove Chris Wright genius here and make him look really smart?
I was more praying that my right front didn't blow because it started feeling it there at the end. I think I ended with like 20%. Fody was like, yeah, I'm going to have to save a lot more. You're going to have to go. So he just let me go. And he started to save more, and I didn't really need to save that much more. So I just needed to coast and go green.
Well, now you've got that monkey off your back. You can start winning these races again. We got Bristol coming up, always a great track for you. What's the outlook here for you for the rest of these playoffs and maybe making a run here at the championship?
That's great. Definitely last month and a half or so. I hadn't really had the finishes I really wanted or needed, just enough just to make it to the next rounds. And that's all about just making it through. And a big win here, give me the championship to defend my title. So, yeah. Also run by Fody and Tyler and everybody up there. It was a good, clean race there to the end.
All right, Scott, before we let you jump out of here, celebrate your win and prepare to go and try to win another championship. Who helps get it done for you? What's the sponsors on the car, and who's watching at home?
We got Blue Egg Marketing, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, JD Designs with the paint scheme. I love this paint scheme. It's pretty awesome. Get a shout out to my team, Lake Norman Motorsports, Tyler Fody, Ethan Stanley, Nick Massey tonight. Get a shout out to my grandfather watching, wife watching, and everybody else. Chris for picking me tonight. Thank you for that. I'm glad I can.
Yeah, that's not what you were saying when I told you I was going to pick you before the race. I just want to throw that out there.
I'm glad you have faith in me.
You know, I do have one more question for you. You're a guy who was not teamed up really with a big team, and then you moved over to Lake Norman. How has that dynamic been for you now that you're, about a full year in? And what are some of the benefits? And is there any downside to being teammates over here with Tyler Fody, Ethan Stanley, and these guys, Nick Massey, of course? And I'm not going to name everybody, but there's a few guys over there. What's that been like for you to be able to be with guys that are on your level of speed?
The upside is being able to talk to people during the race, keep me calm, keep me off the race chatter. The downside is when you're not winning and they are. So you're like, dang, what am I doing wrong? And hopefully try and learn from them. And we work well together and we get a lot of wins. And hopefully we can keep up this good this team camaraderie, whatever.
Camaraderie? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You've already gotten to the champagne. You got nothing to worry about, man. You got that victory. You got that trophy. It's time to go get a championship. So congrats on the win tonight. Congrats on the run. And we look forward to talking to you again here. And maybe I'll pick you again. I'll definitely go ahead and put this out here in the universe. You're going to be my pick at Bristol for sure. All right. So
yeah, it's one race I definitely want to win. I've had a lot of second place, third place finishes there, and just came up short a couple times there. I think I was coming to maybe 2 to go and ran into a lap car or something leading. So definitely want to get a win there.
All right, Scott, congrats on the win. We'll see you next week from, I believe, Vegas, if I remember correctly. So good luck out there in Vegas, going out to Sin City and going maybe back-to-back on the mile and a half.
All right, thank you.
Well, Chris, that was Scott Crump, your race winner here tonight. And before we set off, any final thoughts from you, my friend?
I'm just getting bombarded with messages over here. People offering to pay me money to pick them to win moving forward. It's amazing how quick that narrative changed. No, I'm just kidding. I got to say, though, man, tonight was one of the most exciting races I've had the pleasure of broadcasting. I was so glad to do it with you tonight, Robert, and all the different things we had going on. We do not need all those late race cautions and green, white checkers to have a good show. Tonight was fantastic with the fuel mileage, the 3-4 different strategies we were looking at on some guys trying to go 70 laps, some guys trying to go 63, whatever that was, and some guys on fresh tires. It was a great race. The drivers did a great job, just had that one caution, and just goes to show you if the product is good, you don't need to keep boxing them up for those restarts.
It's definitely a good point, Chris, and it was an exceptional race to call here tonight. Went by rather quickly. It's not even 9 o'clock yet, and we are done here at Charlotte. Can't wait for the next one coming up at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway next week. Just 3 races to go, Chris Wright, in the 2024A season. Vegas, Bristol, and Chicagoland before we crown a champion. But that'll do it for us here tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. On behalf of Chris Wright, on behalf of Chad Frankenfield, Dave Huckleberry, and all the admins at the Elite Racing League, my name's Robert Hill Jr. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Have a good night, everybody.